Well, first up to that big political story in Karnataka this evening, the Muda trouble for Chief Minister Siddaramaiah clearly not over as yet. The Enforcement Directorate today challenged the clean chit in the case given by the Karnataka Lok Ayukta to the Chief Minister and his family in the land allotment controversy. The Enforcement Directorate, which was parallelly investigating the case, claimed before the court for People's Representatives that it had found several irregularities in the case and that the Lok Ayukta report was misleading. In another case, the Karnataka High Court also allowed the ED to continue with its investigations in the Muda case. The Lok Ayukta had sought to close the FIR against the Chief Minister as it found no criminal case in the Muda land allotment controversy in which the Chief Minister's wife and family are allegedly benefited from a flawed compensation land allotment scheme by the Mysuru Urban Development Authority. So what does this mean for Siddaramaiah and the Congress government in Karnataka? Well, joining me this evening, Sadashiv Shivanna of the Congress, Anand Gurumurthy of the BJP, and also senior journalist B.S. Arun. But first, let me go across to my colleague Deepak Bhupanna, who begins his stint with NDTV today. Deepak joins me live. Deepak, welcome to the Southern View. Clearly, the Muda battle not over for Siddaramaiah. Explain to us the developments in the court and what that means both legally and politically for Siddaramaiah.
Well, it definitely seems like now there is room for trouble for Mr. Siddaramaiah, the Karnataka Chief Minister, because up until now, it seemed like, the trouble was going away. Because on one hand, the Lok Ayukta filed a report, and the report was a B report, which meant that they didn't find any sort of evidence against Mr. Siddaramaiah. But in the past, we've seen the Enforcement Directorate, which came out with a detailed press release, which claimed that, he misused his position as a Chief Minister. And this was shared with the Lok Ayukta as well. But that didn't find a mention in the Lok Ayukta report. Now the Enforcement Directorate has done two things, or rather has benefited from two things. One is a petition that's being filed seeking that the court should rather, dismiss this particular B report or not consider it. Now, what happens in that regard, that remains to be seen. But what is actual trouble now coming the way of the Karnataka Chief Minister is the fact that DB Natesh, who's a former Muda commissioner, he was there was a little bit of documentation and a little bit of evidence that was collected from his residence. Now, based on this, the Lok Ayukta has now been allowed by the division bench of the Karnataka High Court to question anybody linked to this particular case. When I say anybody, we should note that Siddaramaiah is also an individual who's connected to this particular case. So is his wife, and so are several other,
Right.
political personalities as well. So how will this really fare for the Karnataka Chief Minister? Will this mean trouble? And will this mean that the BJP is going to continue to mount pressure politically on him? All of this remains to be seen.
That's right. Those are the questions exactly, Deepak, that I'm going to pose to our panel this evening, starting with Sadashiv Shivanna of the Congress. The trouble as far as the Muda case, Sadashiv, doesn't seem to be over for Chief Minister Siddaramaiah. How do you see the fact that the ED is putting pressure on this case now, challenging that Lok Ayukta clean chit, play out for the Chief Minister and for the government and for the Congress in the state?
The protest petition filed by the Enforcement Directorate is nothing but a publicity stunt. The Enforcement Directorate is over enthusiasm in this matter is reflective of the fact that independent investigative agencies are being systematically weaponized to undermine and destabilize democratically elected governments at the behest of the central government. Rather than upholding the rule of law, these agencies are functioning as political tools. They're functioning as political puppets, targeting opposition leaders to stifle dissent. What is the job of the Enforcement Directorate? It is to catch criminals. It is to prevent money laundering, that is the washing of corrupt money, not to operate as political laundering machines, not to operate as political washing machines at the behest of the Bharatiya Janata Party. In this particular case, the Lok Ayukta, which is considered to be an independent investigative agency, has filed a report. The protest petition has been filed by the complainant, who is Siddaramaiah Krishna. Arguments were advanced by both parties, and the special court was scheduled to pass orders on the protest petition tomorrow. Now, at 2 days prior, the ED comes up and says, we are an aggrieved party, please listen to us. What is their motivation? The timing of the protest petition is questionable. And what is the locus standi?
Anand.
We have no locus standi at all.
Anand.
By no of imagination,
Sadashiv
can the
Shivanna raising
enforcement
some strong
directorate
questions. What is the locus standi? Purely political, given the atmosphere in other states and the accusations made by the opposition, it may only lead further to the portrayal that the ED is used by the BJP and the centre to target a Congress chief minister. Your response?
Let me point out one thing in the Lok Ayukta report. Any citizen, if he gets a compensation, the ratio is about 60-40 ratio. But here, it has been pointed out in the Lok Ayukta report that Mr. Siddaramaiah was approved. I mean, Mr. Siddaramaiah's wife was approved 50-50%. Why this favoritism came in? So this point itself reflects that the officer who did it was doing under the behest of some pressure or some favoritism that he got. So because of this, this case opens up in many ways. Okay, I just pointed out one thing because there is time constraint and people of Karnataka have already seen 3 to 4 days arguments of different lawyers like Mr. Shivanna in the court. Okay, I mean, once some of his colleagues have argued for Siddaramaiah ji and some of them have argued against, and everybody has seen those things. There are so many loopholes in this, and the B report talks of giving a clean sheet to a political leader at that position. Imagine the kind of corruption that has happened under this CM in his previous term also. So this is the kind of thing that Bharatiya Janata Party is trying to point out. One. Number two, ED and any other agency, central agencies, which is being called, as puppets of BJP and other things by Congress. Please understand that that's not the case. Since 2014, after Narendra Modi's prime ministership started, it is very clear that all the leaders, whether it's Congress party or BJP or anybody, okay, who is caught into money laundering, they are being investigated and they are being pulled to the court and they are answerable to the public. So this is happening. All these agencies are now independent agencies. So Congress should stop speaking like this.
I see the Congress spokesperson raising his hand violently, vehemently trying to protest what you're saying. But before I get to him, let me go to the senior journalist on the panel, B.S. Arun. Arun, the fact that ED pressure continues on the one hand means legal trouble. But in terms of the popular perception and in terms of the politics of the state, how do you see this impact, A, for Siddaramaiah? B, does this mean that the worry as far as the Muda case remains a real and present danger for Siddaramaiah?
I think so. Today's development would put Siddaramaiah in a tight corner. It is certainly a setback because just about recently, last month, Supreme Court, the court had not given approval for issuing summons, but now it has paved the way for the ED to question Siddaramaiah and others. So to that extent, I think it's certainly a setback to the Chief Minister and coming in at such a time when the Lok Ayukta has already given him a clean chit. But then, the politics of it, I think, will continue for long. The BJP will certainly take it up, may take it up in a big way because that party also is facing internal troubles. The internal troubles of Siddaramaiah himself, the campaign mounted by D.K. Shivkumar, the Deputy Chief Minister, against him and many of the ministers coming into the open in the internal squabbles of the party. All these, I think, put Siddaramaiah in a sort of a corner. And this today's development by the ED, a central agency to boot, I think will certainly go against him. I think he won't be sleeping very happily from today onwards because we have seen what has happened in the case of other opposition leaders. Say, for example, the former Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal and others, and what happened to his party later. So, because of this, the past incidents and what happened to those cases, I think Siddaramaiah would not be very happy going through today's development and what he would do in the days to come, what the ED will do in the days to come, I think would be interesting and may in fact put Karnataka politics itself in a different way. One more thing, Veera, today's ED petition also talks about integrity and the other issue, sovereignty So I haven't come across ED using these words in other cases. What does this mean? Whether there is whether the ED is looking into it in a very different way altogether, I wonder. So I think that
Right.
if those words that the ED has used in a very different context, I think that also we need to wait and see what's going to happen as far as that those words are
Important points
concerned.
that you're saying there. It's not just interesting, it's also important, as you mentioned, politically in terms of the power equations. But Sadashiv Shivanna, the question very simply raised by the BJP spokesman is that they are not convinced about the Lok Ayukta report. And just as you doubt the ED, they doubt the Lok Ayukta's clean sheet. A, that's one point. B, does this really create a sense of worry for the Congress, given that a chief minister is going to be aggressively probed by the ED in this controversy?
No, not at all. Firstly, I would like to reiterate my point, saying what is the locus standi of the ED in this particular matter? According to me, they cannot be treated as an aggrieved party under the provisions of the PMLA at all. Now, it is a legal question and we must leave it to the courts to decide whether they are an aggrieved party or not, whether they can file such kind of things. Now, speaking of courts, the Honorable High Court of Karnataka has quashed the ECIR and FI and the summons insofar as Natesh is concerned, insofar as Srimati Parvati is concerned, who is the Chief Minister's wife, insofar as the Urban Development Minister is concerned. Now, what is the ED actually investigating? When the 14 sites, the alleged proceeds of crime, the 14 sites have been returned to the state government even before ED came into the picture. So what are you doing? It's nothing but a publicity stunt. And let me take this point on ED. You know, I have to expose them. 132 money laundering cases against politicians and only one conviction. That is their conviction rate. Okay, 1,700 raids and only 9 convictions. 121 political leaders that the ED investigated against, 115 are from the opposition parties. Out of 25 opposition leaders facing corruption, half of them have joined BJP. Now, what is the status of the investigation initiated by the Enforcement Directorate insofar as Himant Biswa Sarma is concerned, insofar as Mukul Roy is concerned, Ajit Pawar, Y.S. Chaudhary, Harshvardhan Patil, Chandrababu Naidu. So you join hands with the BJP, you align forces with the BJP, the ED drops cases. This kind of conviction rate,
Anand Sadashiv making point with statistics and facts.
How can we trust their integrity?
I will just
How
tell
can
you,
we
Mr.
trust their
Sadashiv
integrity
also,
is the question he's raised. Respond.
Yes, definitely I'll answer that. Mr. Sadashiv clearly understands that, he's asking a question and he knows the answer also. He's a well-educated person. See, all these cases are still running. They are not closed. Okay?
It's closed,
It is
sir.
an independent agency. Wait a second. And then, one more thing,
Sorry,
Mr. Sadashiv. You seem to be a knowledgeable person. Tell me, if a person, steals a gold chain and then returns it back, is it not a crime? Are you telling me on national TV that somebody took something by, snatched 15 sites from people who would need those sites to build their houses for profit as a powerful politician, and they give back, and you are trying to justify this on national TV being a Congress spokesperson? Answer me, Mr. Sadashiv, how justified is your talk here?
Well, now I will have to give you a lesson on law. Now I will have to give you a lesson on law. The Enforcement Directorate can come into the picture only when there is a predicate
lecture of law that's going to happen in the courts. I will leave this conversation for the moment. Thanks to all three of you for joining me here on the Southern View this evening.